Hey guys, welcome to the Killing the Tea podcast. This is Gare,
And Kate.
and we are going to be discussing all things chills, thrills, and kills. Kate and I are going to be talking about our favorite books, TV shows, and movies that are in the thriller or crime fiction genre, as well as some reading habits and other items related to how we met on Bookstagram that will fit in with this podcast. So, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you have fun and get totally terrified.
So my next one is The Other Me by Sarah Zachrich Jang. It came out in 2021 and it is a time travel thriller. Where basically Kelly is a free spirited. Why can't I speak tonight?
Because we're so pumped to be here.
We're just so excited to be here. It sounds like there's thunder outside, but I know there's not thunder. Maybe that's what's getting to me.
It's either thunder or it's I don't know what is going on, but I feel like every car that
Mm-hmm.
has driven by my house since we started recording has their fucking muffler dragging on
That's what
the
I think
road.
was just basically happening. Yeah. I'm like, come on, guys, chill
We had
out. I'm
stalkers.
podcasting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Chill out, you wild kids. I'm like, we have stalkers.
I'm like, shut up. That's funny.
You have a Tyler.
Oh, yeah. He's got his AirPods on. He probably doesn't hear anything.
Lucky
Okay.
guy.
I'm gonna talk about this book.
Yeah,
I'm
tell
gonna
me about it.
figure I'm gonna figure it out.
Tell
So
me all about it.
1 minute, Kelly's a free spirited artist in Chicago going to her best friend's art show. The next, she opens a door and mysteriously emerges in her Michigan hometown. Suddenly, her life is unrecognizable. She's got 12 years of the wrong memories in her head, and she's married to Eric, a man she barely knew in high school. Racing to get back to her old life, Kelly's search leads only to more questions. In this life, she loves Eric and wants to trust him, but everything she discovers about him, including a connection to a mysterious tech startup, tells her she shouldn't. Strange things keep happening. The tattoos she had when she was an artist briefly reappear on her skin. She remembers fights with Eric that he says never happened, and her relationships with loved ones, both new and familiar, seem to change without warning. The closer Kelly gets to putting the pieces together, the more her reality seems to shift. And if she can't figure out what happened on her birthday, the next change could cost her everything.
That cover is beautiful too, by the way.
I love that cover. And it doesn't give anything away to say it's one of those really cool covers where you get to the end and the cover means a lot.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I like that.
And I was
Um,
like, whoa.
would you say it's good for like a beginner who's not used to having sci-fi time travel?
I would say this is a lot more like a domestic psychological suspense. And she just happens to be in a different timeline. It doesn't like go into like any science behind it. She's just trying to get back. So yes, I would.
Yeah, I might have to check it out then.
Actually, Ashley Winstead posted about it earlier this year. And her review talked about how it was also a really cool exploration of what it means to be an artist or to create things. And
Mhm.
there is that kind of aspect to it too. So very, if you like artists in your thrillers, there's that. The Other Me.
Love it. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
check it out.
I think you would
Anything that
like it
you
a lot.
recommend and also Ashley Winstead recommends, like
Right.
obviously
Yeah, she
is
gave it like a 5 star. I did too.
yeah, yeah. But I mean she's yeah, obviously like we love her, but I just think with you, like you know me very well, so
Yeah. Yeah.
like you're not going to tell me to pick up dark matter anytime soon because you know that like I
Mhm.
need to like work my way up to like getting to that
Yes.
point, you know?
Yes.
So
That is like time travel advanced. And this is like time travel as like a novelty thing,
yeah, yeah.
is the way I would describe it.
I love it. I love it.
I
And it
know.
sounds incredible.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm. It's on my wish list now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, tell me when you read it.
I will because we are doing an incredible job of segueing into one another's recommendations
I
in a
love when that
very
happens.
creepy way. Um, my next one has a very tiny, I don't know if you would say paranormal aspect to
Hmm.
it, but it also, when you read it, the cover means more to you after you read the book.
Oh my gosh, that is
So,
so trippy.
Please See Us by Caitlin Mullen is one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. If my house caught on fire, it would be one of the books I was grabbing off my bookshelf to throw out on my front lawn to
Yeah.
save. Like the amount, I think I've read this book 3 or 4 times. I want to read it
Hmm.
again just talking about it. It is one of my favorite stories in the entire world. It is like, I know it takes place in the summertime, but you just picture it being in like rain the entire time and just this
Hmm.
like unsettly gritty. But anyway, it's about two women who form an unlikely friendship during the summer in Atlantic City because people women are disappearing. um Two Jane Does lie in the marshland behind the Sunset Motel just west of town, and the only person that knows they are there is the person that is responsible for their deaths. Clara is a young boardwalk psychic who struggles to attract clients for tarot readings that pay her rent. And she begins to experience really disturbing visions that suspects they could be related to the recent cases of women who have gone missing in Atlantic City. So she ends up meeting Lily, who's an ex Soho art gallery girl, who is basically like working at the spa and the casino. And everybody's kind of like, what are you doing here? Like, how did you go from like art gallery job in Soho to like working in a spa in Atlantic
Hmm.
City? So there's a little bit of a mysterious aspect to the story regarding that, like why she's there, and
Hmm.
what she's kind of running from. So she's kind of like facing her own demons, but also joining forces with Clara to like figure out what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, and basically, you have that question on, are they going to find out what happens, or could one of them possibly be the next girl to go missing?
Whew.
Yeah,
So
it's
many of the books that you talk about like being your most favorite emotional ones.
mhm.
I don't know why I haven't read them yet, but go on.
This one. She's clairvoyant, so there's like a little bit
Hmm.
of that in the
Yeah.
story, which when I was reading it, I was like, it was like I was reading about somebody having a banana for breakfast. Like it just like didn't feel like
Mm.
there it was
I
paranormal
That's
or
a good description.
outside of like anything, just the way it's written, because it's not like
Hmm.
she's, you know it's not like she's banking on it to be this like big thing. It's just so natural to this
Right.
character that like it feels natural to you when you're reading it.
Yeah.
um the thing that I
I
love
love
about,
when that's like how they weave something into a story.
yeah,
Like it feels less like a shtick.
it's not anything close to Simone St. James, but she kind of does that in the same style where like any paranormal aspect is just
Mm.
as much as a surprise to the character as it is to you as a reader. So like you don't feel
Okay.
like, but like with this, it's like, okay, like, I have this guy and he like wants, to spend $20 to tell me if he's gonna like marry this woman. So I'll just give him whatever answer I think. But then like
Right.
all of a sudden she's like, wait a second, like I'm seeing really like violent, disturbing things, and they're just like coming out of nowhere. Um, it definitely deals with the um the issues that we deal with regarding missing women who are
Mm-hmm.
not prioritized,
Mm-hmm.
the way that other women have been
Yep.
prioritized.
Yep.
The thing that I love about this story, though, is, well, there's other things that I can discuss with you if you read it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love about this story is that there are interwoven chapters
Mm-hmm.
between Lily's POV and Clara's point of view,
Okay.
of the Jane Does. So these women that are like
Mm,
lying in the marsh behind this like rundown hotel,
yeah.
they you get like a look at their lives and who they
Mm,
were. As it's not just like, oh, this is like, Sarah, she was 22 and she was
yeah.
like whatever. It's like you get an actual feel like they're like from their point of view as to
Mm-hmm.
who they are as people.
Yeah.
So it's just very haunting and creepy and gritty, and it's just one of the most effective books I've ever read in my entire life, and I loved it. I
It
loved
sounds
everything about
like
it.
Notes on an Execution meets The Change.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Sounds
not
like
as I would say it's like leaning more toward Notes on an Execution.
mm-hmm. For like
Um
mood.
I would say Notes on an Execution actually meets Ashley Winstead. Like if you like Ashley
Okay.
Winstead's writing, Caitlin Mullen is somebody that you will like fly through because she just
Yeah.
has this very beautiful way of telling a very horrifying story.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
a good comparison then.
she, I just like pretty much tell her very often how like, because I post about it because I've read it like multiple
Yeah.
times. I did like a fan poster for it. I've done like multiple
Yeah.
castings. And she's always just like, oh my God, like, thank you so much for being supportive. And I'm like, this is
Thank
one
you for
of the
writing
best
it.
books that I have ever read in
Yeah.
my entire life that I will
I
never shut up
know.
about.
Yep.
And yeah, I think it would also be a very good buddy read for
Mm,
anyone listening. Like, if you have like a friend that you want to read this book with, like, I think there's like a lot of things in it to discuss, basically.
yeah.
And
I
if
wonder
you
if
read
we
it,
should
I'll read it with you.
I wonder if we should start doing some of the ones that are like your favorites or our favorites as the uh like planned reads each month, because then everyone else could read it too.
Hmm. We can go back and forth.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Well, I have another one,
Yeah.
and we've talked about it, but I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast. It's hashtag fashion victim by Amina Akhtar, because I can't stop talking about Amina Akhtar. Like, I swear she's like, cool. She's probably like Caitlin Mullen, like, cool, you're talking about my books again. um,
I
but
mean, she's also really freaking cool and she's
she's
really
so
nice.
cool. I
And
know.
Caitlin
I love
Mullen
her.
is really freaking cool and really freaking nice. So
That's awesome.
props to
That's
those
awesome.
women for
They
being
are very
geniuses
cool.
and kind people.
Yes. So with this one, um, fashion editor. Are you
I'm
laughing at
just
me?
thinking about this book.
I'm so bad at segueing into the
No,
description.
no, I'm laughing because I'm thinking like when I read Fashion Victim, it was one of those
Mhm.
books that like actually made me laugh out loud because of how like
Yes,
good she is at telling a story.
she's so funny. I love how
So
funny she
funny.
is. So fashion editor Anya St. Clair is on the verge of greatness. Her wardrobe is to die for, her social media is killer, and her career path is littered with the bodies of anyone who got in her way. She's worked hard to get where she is, but she doesn't have everything, not like Sarah Taft. Anya's obsession sits one desk away. Beautiful, stylish, and rich, she was born to be a fashion world icon. From her beach wave blonde hair to her on trend nail art, she's a walking editorial spread. And Anya wants to be her friend, her best friend, her only friend. But when Sarah becomes her top competition for a promotion, Anya's plan to win her friendship goes into overdrive. In order to beat Sarah, she'll have to become her. Friendly competition may turn fatal, but as they say in fashion, one day you're in and the next day you're dead. It's like reading a dark comedy thriller.
Yeah.
She just has such a unique voice, and she worked in the fashion industry for a really long time. So she brought a lot of fascinating insight to the point that sometimes she's like, people say I wrote satire. And I'm like, that's not satire. That's what it actually is like. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I've like never forgotten her saying that. I'm like, did I like, does she, I think she somewhat thinks it's not satire. Like she's like, I'm just representing it.
She's just really cool and very
She's so
creative
cool.
and
Yeah.
funny. I
Mm-hmm.
loved that book.
Me too.
I remember where I was when I read that book. Like I remember like where I was like sitting in my house
I have
and
books
like
like that.
it was just such a good reading experience.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so fun.
It was really hard to put down.
Yeah. I think it's
Like
300 pages, not too long.
so there's some books that I'll say like they're like it's hard to put down because of the fact that you don't want to take a break to like
Mm-hmm.
go to bed or
Yeah.
split it up, but like this was one of those books where like when I say it's like hard to put down, I mean like I didn't want to like put it down to go like change my laundry or to go get like
Yes.
takeout or like
Yep.
go like take a shower or whatever. Like you know what I mean? Like I just
Like
like
you've needed to
even for
like
like 10
pee
minutes.
forever and you're just still sitting
Yes.
there. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's so good. So
it,
good. That's an
it really
excellent.
is. Mm-hmm.
Oh my
You want to
God.
laugh and still be thrilled. This is the next book for you.
Yeah. 100%. None of mine are funny either, so that
That's okay.
balances
I'll
out
bring
very well.
a tiny bit of levity.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an excellent one. Um I have one for you because
Ooh.
there's so this is what I was thinking about with the shards when I was reading it. I don't know, but I know
Mm-hmm.
that you and I have talked about how like we love like dark academia, but
Mm-hmm.
there's also something about like small towns and high school like
Mm. Mm-hmm.
campus that like I'm really drawn to as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um because you're so close to independence and freedom
Yeah.
from like high school and like becoming an adult that like when like scary things happen then it's just like even more creepy, I think.
Yep.
um
You still think you're invincible. So like
yes.
the scary stuff is like, what?
um and there's this is no spoiler to this book, but it's also one of those ones that I was like this should have the same like global phenomenon status as Gone Girl if there's anything close
Wow.
to it. It's called Everything You Want Me to Be by Mindy Mejia, Mejia.
I almost put that one on my list.
Are you serious?
I read it a long time ago and I was like, oh yeah.
I read it a long time ago and I want to read it again.
I literally was like, oh, I literally saw it in my list as I was scrolling way back. And I was like, wow, that was really good.
Oh my
That's
God, so
crazy.
good. Um, so it's basically about a girl who her name is Hattie Hoffman. And she spent her whole life playing many parts, such as the good student, the good daughter, the good girlfriend, but she ultimately just ends up wanting something different in her life. She's found brutally stabbed to death in a small town community, and it comes to light that she was engaged in a highly compromising and potentially explosive secret online relationship. Um, so basically her boyfriend like seems distraught but had like fallen so deeply in love with her that like is it an obsession, and it's one of those books that like I think the reason it was so effective with me is that like the synopsis says
Mm-hmm.
she kind of played a different role with everybody. So like nobody knew who she really truly was.
Right.
So it's hard to pinpoint how somebody's murdered when you don't really know them as
Yes.
a person.
Yep.
But it is one of my favorite books.
Yep.
I read it. I think it was probably one of the first or second books that I read when I started my bookstagram.
Yeah. I'm trying to see when I finished it. I was like
Um,
mine.
it is
December
just
of 2017 was when I read it.
okay. All right. Um, I'm gonna look and see when I finished it. I finished it January 15th, 2017.
Nice.
So it is just, I mean, when I read it, I was like, I love a murder mystery. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
expect it to have that
Depth.
impact on me. Yeah, in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I just thought it was like a murder mystery, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, I guess I was expecting something. I mean, even though this came out before, but I was expecting something kind of like a Mayor of Easttown kind of thing where,
Mm-hmm.
you're investigating this crime and then like the way that the story is told, the characters, the way that the community is described, it just like literally checked off everything that is
Mm-hmm.
fantastic about a thriller. But it's not necessarily one that like you're just racing to get to the end so you can find out what happened. It's just actually something that like
Right.
you enjoy the entire time and it really sticks with you for a long time after you finish it.
I agree. Because I was scrolling and even just saw the cover and I was like, I like remembered so many things about it. And it
Hmm.
is so cool how it plays with the fact that everyone's perspective of her is different.
Oh yeah. And the thing is too is that like it's kind of normal. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're different with me than you are with Tyler. You're different with
Mm-hmm.
your friends than you are with Tyler,
Mm-hmm.
relatives, like everybody's like
Yep.
that.
Yeah. Oh
Everybody
yeah.
has a different, not necessarily a different personality, but almost in a way a different
It
personality.
is.
You
You have a
have,
different way of interacting with everyone.
yeah, and you have different things that you share with people
Mm-hmm.
that you might not with others.
Yeah.
And if something ever happens to someone, it's very hard to piece all of those things together
Yep.
to figure out what happened because everybody knows different things, I guess.
Yes.
Even if
That
you're not a
reminds
mysterious or like secretive person.
I like the face. Secretive.
Secretive.
That reminds me of there was a movie that came out probably in like 2007 called I think Vantage Point, and it was one where like there was some kind of attack that happened or something scary happening in a city, and you basically got 8 to 10 minutes from each character's perspective all around the city. And
Oh,
each person's perspective changed what you thought was happening. And I remember seeing that when I was in high school and being so obsessed with it and being like genuinely loving that experience. And then it's interesting now that we're talking about this book, it reminds me of how many books I like the multiple points of view, because essentially that is what you're doing. Like you're seeing different things from
yeah,
different perspectives. It is such a fun plot device.
it is fun. I like the way, yeah, because to piggyback off what you said, it is one of those things where like I like in a book where somebody might see something and be like, oh my God, that's suspicious. But then like you find out the meaning behind it and it's either like
Mm-hmm.
more sinister than you thought or a lot less sinister.
Yes. Yeah.
I just felt like with this one, I think what made it so special with me is that she
Mm-hmm.
did that, but instead of using like um an action or something that happened, she used a person.
Yes. Yes.
So it was just really, really amazing how it was written. And I love her. She's also very nice. She's also a very, very, very nice lady. So
Yeah. I haven't talked to her, but that sounds awesome. Or she sounds
we've
awesome.
we've
Of
DM'd
course.
and she's just very nice. And um This
Didn't
is one of my
she
favorite
just
books.
released the cover for her next book? Was that her?
Yes. Yeah, it
That's
comes
what I
out this
thought.
summer.
Yeah. That
And
was a
she
cool
slid into my
cover.
DMs and said she would send me a copy.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah. And I just think that she's very lovely. And
Mm,
anything I can do to get more people to read this book is
yeah,
so good. Yeah.
it is. It was really good.
It'll stick with you.
And it was her debut, right? That was her debut
Yeah.
book. Yeah, and it was that good.
hmm
Some people can just do it.
That was one of those books that I kind of had with like almost like The Luckiest Girl Alive when that came out. I remember like
Mm-hmm.
seeing it on Amazon and like pre-ordering it. And like I didn't pre-order books back then. So like if I pre-ordered
Oh,
something, it was like a
wow.
big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, this book and like Luckiest Girl Alive. I mean, I never shut up about Luckiest Girl Alive. I never
Yep.
shut up about how much I love Jessica Knoll with all my heart. So
Yeah. It's definitely in
um
the same vein.
yeah, yeah. So I don't think that this will let anybody down.
Mm-mm.
And if it does let you down, then it's just because you have no taste.
None.
Yeah. If you don't like this book, your taste in books sucks.
And you should just stop listening to this podcast. So it's really not worth your time.
Don't ever talk to me again.
Well, in this theme we have now ventured into of teenage girls, my final recommendation is the Book of Essie by Megan McLean Wire. So buckle up for this description. Esther Ann Hicks, or Essie, is the youngest child on Six for Hicks, a reality TV phenomenon. She's grown up in the spotlight, both idolized and despised, for her family's fire and brimstone brand of faith. When Essie's mother, Celia, discovers that Essie is pregnant, she arranges an emergency meeting with the show's producers. Do they sneak Essie out of the country for an abortion? Do they pass the child off as Celia's? Or do they try to arrange a marriage and a ratings blockbuster wedding? Meanwhile, Essie is quietly pairing herself up with Rourke Richards, a senior at her school with a secret of his own to protect. As the newly formed couple attempt to sell their fabricated love story to the media through exclusive interviews with an infamously conservative reporter named Liberty Bell, Essie finds she has questions of her own. What was the real reason for her older sister leaving home? Who can she trust with the truth about her family? And how much is she willing to sacrifice to win her own freedom?
That sounds so fucking good. And the cover's gorgeous.
The cover is beautiful. The title is amazing. Like when you're writing a book about someone differentiating from or individuating from like a strict religious background, to call it the Book of Essie is so funny because it's like the Book of John, the Book of Matthew. Like,
Yeah.
love the title, love the cover, and then it's just like so many cool plot things. So you have the whole reality TV isn't really a real version of life, and then you have religious performativism isn't really a real version of life either. So there's all this fake stuff going on, and there are a lot of secrets to uncover.
I
It's just
added it to
good.
my wish list.
I remember reading it and being like, I wish I could find more books like this, and like just not finding anything quite like it. But if you do love hilarious takedowns on like mega church type stuff, which is what this basically is, the Righteous Gemstones on HBO Max is one of the funniest comedies ever, and like really knows how to display mega churches in a really funny light. So if you like dark comedy, there's a TV reference too.
I just really am obsessed with this cover.
It's so
It
beautiful.
sounds really good. Is it
It like
is it a
it
thriller or is it like more like drama,
I would say it is in there are secrets, but it's more like a
character
domestic
driven?
suspense. Yeah, and character driven. Young
Sounds
adult
really good.
suspense. Yeah.
Awesome.
I
That
remember
sounds
reading
good.
it and just loving it. The cover basically is religious iconography. It's perfect.
Did you read it a while ago?
Really long time ago. It says it came out in 2018, so it must have been. Yeah, I read it
Around
in
then.
2018.
I love when things happen like that though, where like a book like really like sticks with you for a long
It was
time
one
after
of
you
the, it
read
was
it.
the first one I thought of when you brought up the topic. I was like, I haven't talked about the Book of Essie. Perfect topic.
I saved the first one I thought of for last too.
Oh my gosh.
This is
What
so
is up with
weird.
us?
This is so weird. Um, well, I guess I mean, we can't segue from yours to mine. There's literally no connections.
That was a really specific book.
Yours might be some young adult, and mine is for like very brave adult, we'll say.
Brave
Um,
adult. I love that.
this is something I've never talked about this book on the podcast,
Mhm.
which is why it was like, okay. But I have talked about why these stories draw me in because
Mm.
I talked about how I loved the Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix
Mhm.
because, I think that one of the things I find really interesting in thrillers and suspense and horror even
Mhm.
is how fucked up are people's lives after something horrible happens. Like
Yeah.
the killer's dead, you got the answer, you arrested the
Yeah.
bad guy or you killed the bad guy. Like, but what happens to you when like all of that, like what's left of these people, right?
Mhm.
Which is why, if there's any recommendation, it is called What You Don't Know by Joanne Chaney.
Mhm.
It is one of my favorite books in the entire world, but it is gritty, it is character driven, it is harrowing, and it is gritty. Like it is terrifying. Um, so I'm just gonna read the synopsis word for word because if I start
Yeah.
talking about it, you're gonna be like, well, Garrett, you talked about Joanne Chaney for
30
3 hours straight.
minutes.
Yeah. It says he didn't take their lives, but he ruined them. A series of murders brings Denver to its knees in a wonderfully voice driven, dark, wry, and wholly original page turning debut. The last victims of an infamous serial killer on death row may be the ones that he didn't kill. 7 years ago, Detective Paul Hoskins and his larger than life partner solved one of the biggest serial murder cases of the decade. They dug up 33 bodies in a crawl space belonging to the beloved Jackie Seaver, a pillar of the community and successful businessman. Sammy Peterson was the lead reporter on the case. Her byline was the front page of the newspaper every day. Seaver's wife, Gloria, claimed to be as surprised as anyone else. Today, Detective Hoskins has been banished to cold cases. Sammy is trying to make or selling makeup at the mall, and Gloria is trying to navigate a world in which she can't escape condemnation. And Seaver is watching the show. But when a series of new murders occur and the victims are all somehow connected to Seaver, Gloria is once again thrust into the spotlight, while Hoskins and Sammy realize they may be their chance to get their lives back, even if it means forfeiting their humanity in the process.
I mean, that sounds pretty terrifying.
I I don't think this is, I don't know if it's like I don't think this is a spoiler, but like
Mhm.
oh no, it was in the synopsis. Like him being like a successful businessman and like pillar
Mhm.
of the community is
Mhm.
like literally having like your mayor, who's like the most popular man in the like fucking town, be
Mhm.
like it's just like the guy that nobody suspected to be a serial killer, and you dig up 33 bodies in his crawl space. Like, it's so chilling. But
Yeah, that's
I
freaky.
loved how dark and gritty this one was
Mhm.
because the way that this woman tells a story is beyond fantastic.
Yeah.
um and I love how like screwed up these characters are after,
Mhm.
because obviously
Yeah.
like the wife, nothing against it, but like the wife of this person is a very obvious choice
Mhm.
in a story like this. But
Yeah.
when you go to like the detective, like you think that like the detective's work is kind of like done and like I'm just gonna move on with my life now that I solved this case. But
Right.
like his life is screwed up. And like
Mm-hmm.
the news reporter, like the girl who was like writing all about it and everything and like
Yeah.
should have like skyrocketed into like popularity is like
Mm-hmm.
selling makeup at the mall because like she can't really be a journalist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So good. So
The
good.
cover is really cool. The cover made me think of House of Cards.
Is it
It
the
looks
red
like,
is it the red
yeah.
cover with like half of
Mm-hmm.
I think the paperback cover is different. I think the
Okay.
paperback is like a
Yeah, it's
house.
that red one. And the face of the woman looks so much like, I am blanking.
Claire.
Robin, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Claire.
Yeah. Um this is the paperback
Oh,
cover.
wow. Yeah, that's a lot different.
Um yeah, I love this book with all of my heart.
Oh,
Um it is so good. It is so like powerful and effective and just fantastic if you want something that's very character driven but isn't
yeah,
your typical thriller, like
right.
I mean obviously there's like new murders and you're like what the hell's going on, but like
Mm-hmm.
just to be in that place of having something like this come out of nowhere and like
Mm-hmm.
ruin so many people's like lives. um
Yeah.
and it's one of the first books I've read for Bookstagram.
Oh,
I think
really?
like in 2017, to be honest.
That's cool. Yeah, it
And
says it was published in 2017.
yeah, I remember having the hardcover. I don't know where it went, but
Mm-hmm.
um it is she has a second book too that is also like fantastic, but this one just has stuck with me for like a very, very, very long time.
Yeah,
Um and it is fantastic.
it sounds really good.
It almost gives me like Silence of the Lambs with like
Mm.
John Wayne Gacy,
Wow.
probably because of the crawl space, but
Yeah. And the
I
general creepiness.
I don't know if I made this up in my head. I don't think it's a spoiler, but like I also want to say that the guy in this book who's the serial killer, like I want to say that like one of the things he did for the community was perform at children's birthdays as a clown.
Oh.
So, um yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I'm setting all of these aside, all of these books, because like everything that I've
yeah,
talked about tonight, I want to reread.
I
And then I'm
know.
just gonna order the ones that you recommended because
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I know. I even kind of want to reread, but I have so many new ones to read
I know.
and
Sometimes
so many
listen,
movies to watch.
one of my goals for 2023 and being
Mm-hmm.
not so strict with myself is to, if
Yeah.
I'm in the mood to reread something or I want to read something that's like backlist or
Yeah.
whatever, to just give in to those temptations,
I think, yeah.
you know?
Actually, doing this podcast is what helped me loosen up on my reading because I would read backlist and not just be strategic and trying to book guests.
Mhm.
And so then when we could talk about anything, I was like, oh. And so then I could read some of the ones that you were recommending to me, and it made it so much more fun again. So I think you'll have a similar experience.
You know what I was thinking about the other day is
Mm-hmm.
so like when I was on my Christmas break, like I watched a lot of 90s movies. I watched
Mm-hmm.
Home Alone, obviously,
Yeah.
like Christmas Eve, but like
Yep.
I watched a lot of 90s movies. I watched
Mm-hmm.
Primal Fear. I
Mm-hmm.
watched a movie called Unlawful Entry,
Mm-hmm.
which is a fantastic thriller about a couple who has a home invasion and the officer who like arrives to like arrest the bad guy kind of becomes obsessed with this couple and starts stalking them. So
Whoa.
like the detective is like or the cop is like the bad guy.
Whoa.
But I was like, oh my God, I want to watch this. I know I've watched it 100 times, but I'm just in the mood to watch it. And I gave in and I watched it instead of watching
Yeah.
like something new. And I was like, I don't regret that because I already know that I
Yeah.
love that movie.
Yep.
And that's how I feel. That's kind of my outlook with books. Like,
Mhm.
I know that I love Joanne Chaney's book. I know that I
Mhm.
could probably give a speech that would last hours about how much I love this
Mhm.
book, how much I love her as a person, how much I love her as an
Yes.
author. She has fantastic hair. If you want to follow Joanne
Oh,
Chaney on
I
Instagram,
must.
she has fantastic hair. She is a lovely person. She is so kind. But you know what? I'm going to view the same way about books that I do about movies. How do I know that a movie is one of my favorites? It's because I've
Mhm.
watched it more than once and I've loved it at each and every time. So if I'm in the mood to reread something that I know that I love, I'm
Yeah.
going to reread it because that's how
Yep.
it becomes one of your favorite books.
It is.